I'm hanging like a bat off the side of Lincoln Cathedral because I'm on a Gothic adventure to see how a group of medieval masons created a building of such wonder that it defined English architecture for the rest of the Middle Ages.
This is Climbing Great Buildings. Throughout this series, I'll be scaling our most iconic structures from the Normans to the present day. I'll be revealing the building's secrets and telling the story of how British architecture and construction developed over 1,000 years. The next step on my journey through the evolution of British architecture brings me here to Lincoln Cathedral, built from 1185. It's one of the finest examples of Gothic architecture in Britain. In order to reveal the secrets and technological advances medieval architects made in constructing this Gothic masterpiece, I've been given unprecedented access to get a perspective of the building never seen before. I'll be dangling 70 feet in the air to get a view of Lincoln's revolutionary vaulted ceilings. Sliding across the cathedral to get a unique view of a medieval stained glass masterpiece.
I bet only a few people have ever been up here.
And I'll be scaling the colossal central tower, all 272 feet of it. But I won't be going it alone. One of Britain's top climbers, Lucy Creamer, and a team of riggers, along with my fearless cameraman Ian Burton, will be helping me on my Gothic quest.
Oh my lord!
Wow.
It's a sight for sore eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
A climb for sore legs. So we're moving on from Durham, Luce.
Yeah.
And we're looking for the 13th century now, and behind that great facade is a glorious cathedral, begun in the closing years of the 12th century, carried on through the 13th, and so there's a great evolution there of early Gothic building in Britain. And I want to get up close and personal with it. Yeah? Should we do it?
Let's do it.
We're off.
Okay.
The present cathedral stands on the site of a Norman cathedral, most of which suddenly collapsed in 1185. This huge western entrance front of Lincoln is quite daunting at first, but you can break it down into simpler elements. That bare stone with the round arches that's so typical of Norman work was built as a fort-like block by Remigius, the first bishop here from 1072, scared of the Anglo-Saxon rebels so soon after the Norman conquest. And around that are tiers of pointed arches which make a screen-like triumphal entrance. They were put there in the 13th century, and then the towers are topped off into the 14th century. So you've got several hundred years of building here. But behind that complex facade is something altogether more simple. It is one of the most harmonious and complete 13th century cathedrals in England. Lincoln Cathedral is a phenomenal place. You walk in and you see this great long perspective of arches marching off into the distance with this bower, forest-like arrangement of ribs over your head. You're surrounded by a broad, light space, but which is gloriously intricate in the details. It salves the soul, but it engages the intellect. If this is heaven on earth, then it's the best rendition I've seen. You can only wonder what the people of Lincoln thought when they saw this giant, beautiful thing rising into the sky. The pointed arch is the most obvious signature of the Gothic building style, which had largely evolved in France. It was here at Lincoln that the rich English Gothic style was fully developed, and it gave us this wonderfully vast space here in the nave, which is the main body of the cathedral. For my first climb, I'm going to get up close to see the intricate stonework of the arches and the pillars that support them, that allowed the masons to create such an outstanding space. This cathedral is fascinating. Love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really inventive. See the way these pillars You remember at Durham, they were big round things, weren't they?
Yeah.
And here, look, they're all delightful shapes. They're weaving in and out under this dark Purbeck marble, but every one of them's different.
I love
You know?
your enthusiasm
Yeah.
about pillars.
Yeah. Abandoning Norman round arches in favour of pointed arches added strength, allowing for greater spans, larger windows and more light. It also opened the floodgates for experimentation. Right, you see what I really want to see up there is those arches that these inventive pillars carry. Incredibly complex.
Yeah.
There's just, all I see is just line after line after line, and I want to get close and see, in fact, what that is. Show me how it's done, madam.
Okay.
These pillars carry perfect examples of early English Gothic arches.
Pretty good view from up here.
It took intricate moulds and skillful craftsmanship to enable the masons to produce them. Now, in order for an English mason to make an arch like this, I'm going to draw the kind of shaped template that a master mason would have needed to give him. So we're talking about a piece of metal cut in a particular shape that has to be set on a stone. The stone then is cut into that profile, but of course this isn't just one stone. From here into maybe there is one stone, then there's another one, both incredibly complex, but very refined and simple. Look at that. It's crazy. It's like taking a line for a walk. I mean, incredibly complex, amazingly expensive, because the investment of craftsmanship is enormous. It needed someone of extraordinary charisma to drive the construction of this great cathedral, and the man tasked with the job was a Frenchman, St. Hugh of Avalon. Nicholas, where was St. Hugh from?
He came from Burgundy. His father was an aristocrat.
But the timing was odd, wasn't it? Because Lincoln Cathedral wasn't in the best condition.
That's right. I mean, he arrived and found the cathedral in ruins as a result of whatever it was. Roger Howden says an earthquake. Clearly, there'd been a major collapse of that structure and a major challenge for a new bishop.
Good man, right attitude, sees a new cathedral as an opportunity. So how does he set about it?
By ensuring there was going to be the money available to pay for the whole project. And I think that's particularly where his contribution lay, because the people were convinced that by helping to rebuild the cathedral, they were securing the safety of their souls in the afterlife, and that was a very strong motivation.
So Lincoln, with its wonderful East End, its inventive architecture, the fact that frankly it stands at all, is ultimately due to this one man.
Without him, it certainly wouldn't have been achieved.
St. Hugh inspired and raised the money for this architectural wonder. I want to have a look at one of the cathedral's most inventive features, the vaulted ceiling. In order to do this, Lucy and the riggers have put together something that looks pretty daunting.
Hold that one. Right, give it a little pull down. See how it tightens up?
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm walking along something called a slack line.
Oh boy.
Is that fun?
Yeah.
Do a little bounce. Bounce up and down. Just
No, that's. Whoa. Actually, you can't help but bounce.
There we go. You got to stay with it.
Stable as a horse's bedroom.
This will enable me to see the cathedral from angles few people will ever have experienced. What you see, actually, when you're here, in this position, you get quite close up to a novelty, another of Lincoln's novelties, and that is, it's called a tierceron. And it is a little rib that comes out from one of the central bosses. So it makes a cross shape. And the beauty of the tierceron is that it's totally unnecessary. It is making a pattern for pattern's sake. And it leads in England to a spate of vault design which gets ever more complex and ever more wonderful, to the extent that after a while, when you get to Gloucester in the early 14th century, it looks like someone's thrown a fishing net over the ceiling. Incredible complexity. Here is where it really starts. The complex vaulting is a key new invention seen here at Lincoln Cathedral. But what supports this massive stonework? I'm off to the roof to find out. At Durham Cathedral, we saw the birth of the flying buttress, hidden though it was under the roof of the triforium. And at Lincoln, there are still some arches there doing some bracing. But I've come up onto the roof on the south side of the nave to see what's above it. And there we are, properly, truly flying buttresses. Now, the French made a speciality of these because they built higher and more slender in proportion than English cathedrals came to be. We love the long Norman cathedrals, and Lincoln builds on that as a theme. So we don't build as high, but we do build wide. And that's what these things are doing, offering an extra level of bracing for broad, spacious, beautiful vaults over the nave. Bit of technological wonder.
Here at Lincoln, the buttresses are intentionally left exposed to create a web of stonework that's intended to disguise the solidity of the structure and give the impression that the cathedral is being suspended from heaven. So far, we've seen three key structural devices that Gothic architecture relied upon: pointed arch, the rib vault, and the flying buttress, which combined to allow masons to construct higher and wider. This structural skeleton encouraged the replacement of walls with windows. Here at Lincoln, we see the development of beautiful large stained glass windows using a stone framework called tracery. And the two medieval rose windows in the north and south transepts are its crowning glories.
Right, Jonathan, you want to see this window?
I do want to get close up to it, yeah, but I realise that involves some dangling.
Yeah, more climbing for you, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
How's it to be done?
Well, basically, we've got this Tyrolean rigged across here, which you can climb up these ropes just behind us, pull yourself across, and then you can see the
How do I do that?
easy pulley. There's a pulley on there, and then basically you'll be able to ascend the rope,
boy.
and you'll be able to see the window at the distance that you want it to be at.
I should be a quivering wreck. Right, this is the stuff that I find hard, actually. Right, let's get on with it.
Okay.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, as I'm going to be one of the only people to have seen the technicolor marvel that is the Dean's Eye from this unique viewpoint. It dates from after the 1192 rebuild started by St. Hugh, but was finally completed in 1222. For the medieval masons and glaziers, this was an incredible achievement.
So when the stained glass artists made this in the 13th century, they wouldn't even have illuminated tables, of course. They would have each section set out on a bench. Of course, it all then gets assembled, and then the light floods through it. And it must have been a surprise to them to see it in place. And where are they going to be, standing back, looking at this thing, which they only just vaguely imagined, you know, how it would all work, how the colours would chime together. I get the privilege of seeing that close up in a way even they who made it were never able to.
The craftsmen who installed this window would have been on a scaffold only inches away from the glass, unable to take in its full glory. Even when completed, they could only have seen the finished window from the galleries to its sides, or from the floor looking up.
I bet only a few people have ever been up here. So I, sir, am going back to looking.
These days, we take cheap window glass for granted, but this was 800 years ago when most people lived in a single-story dwelling with little more than slits for windows.
It's often thought that stained glass is called the Biblia Pauperum, the poor people's Bible. Those who are uneducated and illiterate could read the messages of the church through this illuminated glass as if it were a kind of cinema. It's wonderful in its variety, but you get the sense that for people looking at it from 60 or 70 feet below, they wouldn't be able to see what happened with figures whose heads are that big. It makes you think, after all, the audience is not people. It's God. It's his eye that matters.
At the other end of the cathedral lies another medieval stained glass masterpiece. The Bishop's Eye window had all its glass smashed out during the English Civil War. Pieces of the original glass survive, but when the window was restored in the late 18th century, they were put back in a random way. Although we can't see the original images, what you get instead is this quite astounding kaleidoscope of glowing colour. But unfortunately, it seems it wasn't just vandals in the 17th century that were intent on destroying the cathedral's beautiful glasswork, as the restoration team here at Lincoln know only too well. Vandals recently broke this window, escaping from the cathedral after a burglary. The modern glaziers are cleaning and repairing the window to bring it back to its former glory.
Steve, tell me what's involved in conserving those windows.
Okay, well, once you've cut your piece of glass, you'll actually need to paint it. So what I'm trying to paint is a piece similar to this. To do that, what I'll have to do is have a drawing, a tracing of the design, a piece of glass I've just cut, place it over the top, and then I have my glass paint here.
Steve and his team make the paint using the same combination of heavy metals that would have been used in the medieval era.
And what I'm going to do is draw one of these straight lines. I'm going to use the rest to do that. Place it on top.
Beautiful.
So that's one of my straight lines.
So 800 years ago, when those windows were made, that obviously wasn't the end of the story. They had to be restored by someone.
Yeah,
What inspired you to do it?
It's just a fantastic honour to be able to be involved in preserving something like this, and for future generations to enjoy.
I'm now in an area of the cathedral called the Angel Choir that contains the shrine of St. Hugh, the man who inspired this incredible cathedral. I'm making my way through the triforium, the middle level of the cathedral, in order to cross over the choir on a pulley system known as a Tyrolean. I want to get a bird's eye view to see how early Gothic developed into the later 13th century style known as decorated Gothic.
Ah, this feels like the centre of the universe, this view. It's glorious. You can see right the way down to the west front. You can see over everything, and all of the arches are gathered in perspective. It's marvellous. This is really the culmination of the cathedral. It's built in the 1250s, and after St. Hugh died and his life was written, and the pilgrims started pouring in, the old cathedral, actually you can see it uniquely. There are little black lines in the ground where excavations found the old east end of the cathedral, and all this was pulled down 1255 and replaced with this east end. It surrounds the shrine of St. Hugh, and the architecture itself becomes a kind of super shrine. It's a shrine around a shrine. Incredible richness. Luce, you gonna come join me?
Yeah? Whee!
Whoa.
It's great. This is fun.
Yeah, actually, people would pay good money at that, wouldn't they, at a theme park?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But to never get that view. Look at that, isn't it extraordinary? Goes on forever. You can see why English cathedrals are really keen on the long view. Rather than looking up, they look along.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're in this extraordinary tunnel, doesn't it?
But no one would ever see it from here. You can see the whole length of the cathedral.
That's for sure, isn't it? Yeah, you get a glimpse at ground level, but you don't get to see the whole lot in one go.
No.
Gothic architecture is renowned for its intricate stone carvings, and at Lincoln it's everywhere. And there's one particularly famous example.
I want to show you something while we're here, because I remember as a lad being shown this little creature, and it's hard to spot even from the ground.
Off this
It's the
way.
first and probably only time I'll ever get close to it. You heard of the Lincoln Imp?
I have to confess no. But I have now.
Many stories about the Lincoln Imp. The plausible one is that he's a little reminder that however sacred a space, there's always a danger that people fall prey to evil. So you've got to, you've got to keep an eye out for that. And he's actually, there he is. I think we need to descend to get a good look at him.
Yeah.
But if you look back, you can see the guy who's frowning.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one who's looking across. So, he's the good eye who's checking out and keeping an eye on evil.
Okay.
There's always this balance of good and evil. It's like any good movie. There he is.
Yeah.
Bang on line with him. Look at him.
So that's the Lincoln Imp.
There's the little fella. I like him a lot. There is a story, in the building of the Angel Choir. He was pelting rocks down. He's got on his feet. Look, there's something he's got his feet on. He's pelting rocks down, and it actually took the angels to come and stop him.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well, I'm an admirer of the Lincoln Imp. Thing is, Lou, You can chuck as much money as you want at a building, but you can't buy skill,
No.
can you? To paraphrase the Beatles, money doesn't buy you skill. So I want to find out what's involved carving capitals and these beautiful leaf shapes. So I'm off to see a stonemason.
Great. Tell me all.
I'll tell you all about it. Goodbye, cheers, Luke.
See ya.
This is a stone which is a replacement for this capital up here. So although the detail on it is still good, it's good for us to work on. The stone's failed, so it has to come out.
The imp, like the rest of the building, is made from locally quarried limestone, which is in constant need of repair and restoration. Paul and his team of stonemasons use techniques and skills that have been passed down through the generations. Despite technological advances, all the stonework here is done the medieval way, with every piece of sculpture being carved by hand on site.
Paul, Lincoln Cathedral is really remarkable for the range and variety of its sculpture. What kind of work have you had to do?
Most of the decoration throughout the building is this, and it's called stiff leaf. A lot of our work, if you like, the bread and butter stuff we're doing all the time, things like this capitals we're replacing, is in this style.
It's a late 12th century kind of abstract leaf design.
It is, it's bizarre.
Are any two alike?
Well, they're not. They're people's interpretations of that, and you'd have had the master mason or carver at the time would have done his one, and then you'd have had all the other masons would be following his example. And they look quite simple, but believe me, they're not. My first one was pants when I first did it.
So, Paul, to what extent do you carry on the medieval traditions that were used on this building?
Our tools are the same. That's a traditional beechwood mallet, that one. And then this one is made of nylon, so it's just different materials. The chisels as well, are very similar, but this is a modern chisel, and it's tungsten tipped. The old chisels would have been drawn out by a blacksmith on site. And
Were they made of iron or bronze, the old ones?
They're iron, but we work in the same way.
Okay.
We go through the same. Our apprentices are taught the same way, and we work the same way.
Well, I admire your work, and I like the way you've kept on the medieval traditions, so thanks for showing me. I thought I'd come up on the scaffolding and see the inventive carving that Paul and his team have produced. I like this little fella a lot. I empathise with him, clinging onto the building for dear life. And that's what I'm going to be doing up there in the central tower. And that is where inventive carving meets with inventive structure. Quite a different thing, because there was a tower standing on this site. It collapsed in 1237. It was a little bit too inventive, and this is its replacement. I hope it holds out for me. Let's do it.
I'm climbing the 272-foot-high central tower, which was completed in 1311. Back then, it would have been even more impressive. There used to be a spire on top, soaring to well over 500 feet.
Well, got the ropes set up, and we're just going to have to head on up into the wind and stone.
Any tricks, though, on a building of this sort of height?
Well, it's the height, but it's also the delicacy of it. So we've just got to be really aware that we're not swinging around too much, to just try and keep a nice steady pace.
Right, let's go, shall we?
Okay, here we go.
I've been on level with these pinnacles. You see those faces all sticking out, grimacing. There's this funny order with medieval churches, you know, that it's serenity inside and absolute chaos outside.
Okay.
There's
yeah.
monkeys and people grimacing, sticking their tongues out and their bums out.
Scary monsters.
Yeah, the lot. It's the chaos of the outside world and heaven inside.
This is my highest climb yet, and I'm trying not to look down. Even though it's the middle of summer, the wind is whipping all around us, making it harder to ascend. But the effort is worth it to get this incredible view of the tower.
Gosh, it's so beautiful. What I really like about this is how unnecessary it is. Look, all of those little mouldings in there, they've cut them. It's so complex, and we're here, what are we now? 150 feet up, something like that. And delightfully cut concave bits of, like bits of hexagon sticking out. And then these great heads of what might be plants, but they're just this sense of dynamic life. It's just this organic shape, as if it's sprouting and giving life. There's a huge sense of generosity about that, just because it's just so unnecessary. It's there for the love of it. Boy, beauty! That's loud. That is loud, Luce. I didn't expect that. What time is it?
We'll find out in a
It's
minute.
time to be scared. There is a building just over there, which is Lincoln Art College. And 20 years ago, I was a student in Lincoln, and I used to look up at this cathedral and think, do you know what? Maybe the best building in the world has already been built. But I tell you what, I'm one of the few who's seen it from this angle.
I know.
Glad to share it with you.
This majestic tower was an astonishing achievement in the early 14th century. But bearing in mind the previous tower had collapsed, how did they build it so high without rebuilding the foundations?
Hey, when you're up here, you notice that there is a real habit that the medieval builders had of building in a double skin. That is, you can see there's an inner wall there where the belfry is, and then there's this outer series of shafts, and they're only separated by a block of masonry. And that thickness, whilst retaining the lightness of the passage between those two skins, allowed for building of this tremendous height. It's also very stable, and it shows how English architecture is in some ways very old-fashioned and traditional. In another way, it's extremely inventive. Cool, quite a complex arrangement at the end, but that was a phenomenal climb. I loved it. I love to see the detail close up.
This is quite cool, actually. Awesome.
Well, that climb was extraordinary, but the view from the top is amazing. You can see into neighbouring counties on the light blue horizon at 360 degrees. But in the Middle Ages, it would have looked quite different. There was a spire that stood here. This low pyramidal roof is just a memory, a footprint of what was here. It stretched as high again into the air. The audacity of the people who built this place, it just keeps going on, amazing you. But in 1548, something like a hurricane came along and it blew the entire spire off. That would have woken you with a bang in the middle of the night. Even without it, Lincoln Cathedral is a marvel, but just imagine what it would have looked like. What was officially regarded as the world's tallest building in its date, visible from up to 40 miles away.
Next time, Carnarvon Castle, where a brutal king and brilliant architect combined to build an immense fortress that would crush their enemies and revolutionize castle building in Britain.